start off by asking you guys, have you guys ever tasted something so good somewhere and you just craved it so bad that you wanted it so bad that you had to just go to the store and buy it? Yes, yes. I don't know why, but it seems like when you haven't had something in a long time is when you forget what it tasted like. And it's only like when you remember about it or see a picture of it or even like taste it is like when you really remember and think back to how good it was, right? So my craving was jalapeno Cheetos. Yes, I love jalapeno Cheetos. I know if Olga's here, she's probably craving beef jerky. Yeah, beef jerky was hers. But anyways, yeah, I wanted Cheetos once so bad. I forgot about them. I forgot all about the jalapeno Cheetos. And then I think I tasted them. Some girl had them at a park. Well, not a random girl, but somebody I knew. And I was like, can I have some? She's like, yeah. And I had like a couple because it was one of those tiny bags and it was already almost done. And I had a couple, and oh my gosh, they were so good. I came home that day, and all I could talk about was how bad I wanted those Cheetos. Andre could probably confirm. And I was like, honey, will you go get me them? Because he was on the way from somewhere. And he's like, I'm not going to go get you these Cheetos. I'm like, fine. Got in my car, got those Cheetos for myself. They were so good, man. Like, and I forgot what they tasted like, right? And then it was like I was remembering, and I tasted a little bit of them, and I just wanted it so bad. And I guess what you could say I had for these Cheetos was that I craved them. And so looking at the word crave, it's pretty interesting. The definition of crave is to yearn for or want greatly or ask for earnestly. And so I definitely yearned for the Cheetos. I definitely wanted them greatly, and I definitely asked Andre for them earnestly. And usually people get what they crave. Like, most times people get what they crave, unless something's in the way. But they'll usually find a way to get over that, to get what they crave. And whether it's good or bad, they usually get what they crave. I guess Cheetos were both good, but bad. And people usually get what they crave. And if I substitute that sentence for the definition of crave, people usually get what they yearn for. People usually get what they crave. People usually get what they want greatly. People usually get what they ask for earnestly. And this leads me to reading this verse in the Bible. And it's in 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 3. So that's where we're going to spend most of the time. And it starts off, I'm reading NLT version. I like NLT translation. And I like how it puts this verse. And it goes on to say, like newborn babies, you must crave pure spiritual milk so that you will grow into full experience of salvation. And in here it says, you must crave pure spiritual milk. And going into that verse, you must crave pure spiritual food. And if you're not craving God, maybe you're not seeing, because remember how I tasted those Cheetos, I tasted it. Or maybe you're not seeing it anywhere else. Maybe you're not seeing God work around you. Maybe you're not looking out for it. Maybe you don't see that billboard of a Big Mac on the side of the road. Or maybe you don't see God working in a friend. Or maybe you haven't been listening to testimonies of people. And maybe you're not craving God. And maybe you're not yearning for God. Maybe you don't want him greatly. Maybe you're not asking for him earnestly. And, sometimes it takes us to say, God, help me crave you. Help me to want you, God. If we're not craving him, then maybe we need to question why we're not craving him, And it says that we must crave pure spiritual milk so that we can grow into full spiritual experience of salvation. Who wants to grow into full spiritual experience of salvation here? I so want that. That sounds so amazing. You will grow into full spiritual experience of salvation. Man, salvation alone is awesome. But to grow into full spiritual experience of salvation, that's just amazing. And, this is just talking about the first steps, kind of, Once you get deeper into God is when all the good stuff really happens. And so if you're not craving God, then ask him earnestly. Say, God, help me to crave you today. Help me to want to read your word today. God, help me to desire you today. And did you know that there's usually a reason for a craving? And having hunger is healthy. Because as a student nurse, I guess, I go a lot of times on floors and I see sick people a lot. And one of the things we look for is loss of appetite. And so having hunger is something healthy. It's something a person should have. They should have a desire to eat, a desire to nourish themselves. And if a child or if a person's not hungry, it can mean that something's not right. And usually that's a nursing symptom of something else that's greater. And just as a side note, John 6:57 says, "Those who feed on me will live." And so having hunger is a healthy thing. And it might mean that something's not right if you don't have that hunger. So it might mean something's not right if you don't have that craving or if you don't have that hunger for God. And so going back to 1 Peter 2:3 as we were reading, like newborn babies, you must crave pure spiritual milk so that you will grow into full spiritual experience of salvation. And you notice how it says you must. It doesn't say you should, you could. It says you must crave pure spiritual milk. And I was thinking, I'm like, why would it say you must? You know? So probably that craving is there for a reason. And you must have that desire, that craving for full spiritual milk. And that craving is usually there for a reason and for a purpose. Otherwise, it wouldn't say you must crave. So what's the purpose of a craving? Actually, there's a lot of scientists who have thought of what's the purpose of a craving. They try to study it. And there's a lot of different theories out there, but the majority of them come to a conclusion that when a pregnant woman is craving something, it's usually that she's lacking something or that she is deficient in something. And it might be something that she's just deficient in, and this is a way of motivating her to get that item so she can nourish herself. So sometimes pregnant women, they crave steak. I probably will crave everything, but poor Andre. But some pregnant women crave steak, and in steak there's a lot of iron, so maybe they're deficient in iron, and that steak will help them to nourish and give the iron the baby and her need. Or sometimes even crazy things. They crave crazy things like chalk, and that sounds really nasty, but there was this craving, and the woman wants to eat chalk, and that's usually because there's like a mineral deficiency, and she wants to eat this chalk for that reason to help fulfill that craving. And so the craving is leading her or motivating her to get the nourishment that she needs. And, she actually enjoys eating it, so she will actually eat it, If she's craving the chalk, she will actually usually eat it. I know it's kind of gross, but there's stories like that. And going on to the purpose of the craving, the woman will crave something that she needs to fulfill or needs to act on, and it will nourish her in turn. And God says, those who feed on me will live. And so keep reading down, like newborn babies, you must crave pure spiritual milk so that you will grow into a full experience of salvation. And it goes on to say, cry out for this nourishment now that you have had a taste of the Lord's kindness. And it says, cry out for this nourishment now that you have had a taste of the Lord's goodness. So once I had a taste of those Cheetos, I cried out for them, right? I asked Andre, I asked not many more people. Maybe I asked Ina. I think I even asked Ina. Yeah, at 2 a.m., I asked Ina. But, I even cried out for these Cheetos. And, how much greater is God than Cheetos? I mean, come on, really? Like, you can only have so many Cheetos until you're just like, oh, did I really eat all of those Cheetos? But God, it's like, you can never get enough, and he's always good, and you're always going to want him, and he's never going to get boring. He's never going to get annoying. You're never going to get sick of him. And so cry out for this nourishment that God has for you now that you have had a taste of the Lord's kindness. And so cry out for this. And, babies cry. They cry when they're hungry, which is good. It's good that they have that hunger, and they cry out for it, and they express it so that the mother will come fulfill that desire. And even cats do that all the time. I was house sitting for my parents. They went to Disneyland this weekend, and I gave the cat food in the the night before, I filled the bowl. And then like later in the afternoon, I came back, and like she was outside the whole time. She was eating. And then I came home, and she was just like, meow, meow, meow. She would not be quiet. She just kept crying and crying, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'll put some food in your bowl. Just leave me alone, And, if cats can cry out for nourishment, like, we should be able to do that to God. We should be able to ask for him, And he's a good father. He's not going to give us a stone or snake if we ask for, his nourishment, and if we ask for his pure spiritual milk so that we can grow with a desire, and we have a good desire behind it. We have a desire to grow into full spiritual experience of salvation. God will fulfill that, and God will give us that nourishment that we need. And so cry out to God, and he will answer. And as a conclusion, crave God, and don't be afraid to cry out or ask God for anything. And, he will satisfy your craving, and he will give you, a desire to worship him. He'll give you a desire to serve him, a desire to read his word. And the world will portray you asking as a sign of weakness. But in our faith, it depends on asking God for forgiveness. Our faith depends on asking God for forgiveness, for strength, for healing. And, the Bible's full of saying, ask and you will receive. Ask me of it. Ask me. And it says, ask and you will receive. So just ask God to taste the full spiritual milk, and you'll see that it's good. And then you'll start to cry out for it, and you'll start to have that hunger. And that's a sign that you're healthy spiritually. And that's a sign that, you have a desire to eat God's word and taste of God. And God will fulfill those desires that you have.